What's up, everybody? In this video, we're going to walk through the process of writing the code solution for USACO's 2017 February contest at the bronze level. Why did the cow cross the road 2? Also known as Circlecross. This video assumes that you already understand the algorithm behind the solution. Just as a real quick recap, what we're going to be doing is for every single letter, we're going to be going through until we find its pair. As we go through, when we find letters in the middle, we're going to be adding them to a set if we've never seen them before. So the B would get added and the C would get added. But when we see it for a second time, we're going to remove them from the set. After we're done, we're going to get the size of the set, the length of the number of items that are in the set, and we're going to add that to a counter. So tools you'll be needing for this, a set, obviously, you'll need to know how to add to a set, how to remove from a set, how to check how many things are in a set, and how to verify whether or not something is in a set. We're going to be covering this in 3 languages, Java, Python, and C++ in that order, starting with Java. Let's start with Java. Okay, so here I have a real quick cheat sheet for us to go off of. This is how to create a collection, a set of items. I recommend using a hash set. There are other ways to do this. For example, if you wanted to use an array with 26 values of trues and falses, you could use a Boolean array. But this is a good excuse to get practice with sets. So I recommend using sets on this one. This is how you add an item to a set, pretty straightforward. This is how you check to see if whether or not something is in a set. You can see we have a true over here from that. This is how you check how many things are in the set. In this case, I have 1 thing in the set. Here's how you remove from a set. And then when we check whether or not it contains an E, we can see the false, that it no longer contains it. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we need to read the file. This is another one with a file reader. In order to read the file, we are going to have a string data, which is what's going to be coming out of the file. In order to be able to read the file, we need to have a scanner. Scanner. There's other ways to do this. I just happen to like the scanner. Fin equals new scanner, new file. And the file is called circlecross.in. In order to be able to use that, we have to import the scanner, Java util scanner. We also import file, Java IO file. And then one other thing we need, because we're opening a file, this may throw an exception. You see it's already flagging it. In the real world, we wouldn't do this, but throws exception. For the sake of USACO problems, putting a throws exception on the bar is fine. In the real world, you would want to ask them for a different file name or let the user know something had gone wrong. We don't have to do that in this case. So we get to be lazy and just say throws exception. Okay, string data equals sc.next. You can use next or next line. In this case, it doesn't make a difference. I'm going to use next line. And then for right now, I'm just going to print it out and make sure I got the data. Also, just in general, when you're writing code, I recommend doing a lot of tests and checks to make sure things are doing what you expect them to be doing. Oops, I called it SC. Because if you have an error further up and then you aren't checking as you go and you write a lot of code and then have a bunch of errors, then it makes it harder to debug. So I like to do it in little steps. So create the scanner, read the line, print the data back out. We can see we printed the data back out. That confirms data has what we think it does. And now as we do our analysis, if something goes wrong, we don't have to worry about whether or not the file reader is not working correctly. Okay, so we've read the data into a container. Step 2, we need to initialize some sort of a counter, int solution equals 0, or int, let's call it crosses equals 0. And then for each letter, for a lot of ways we could do for each letter. I'm going to do for int I equals 0 while I is less than data.length, oops, I plus plus. And then I'm going to do string letter equals data.substring I to I plus 1. And again, there's a lot of ways you could do this. You could use charat if you want to use characters. I'm just going to use strings. Okay, so for every letter, we're going to start from this letter. We need to now find its pair and add and remove from a set. So in order to do this, we need to start looking a letter ahead. So we'll do int. Let's do, how should we set this up? Int runner equals I plus 1. We'll be starting from this letter. And then while data.substring at runner to runner plus 1 equals the letter we're looking for is false, or whatever we could do, or if not. So this is, let's do if not. So if it's not the case that the substring from runner to runner plus 1 is equal to the letter we started with, then we potentially want to continue. But we also need to make sure we're in range. So while also runner is less than data.length. So while our runner is less than the length of how long our string is, meaning we're basically going to be running through the string index by index. So if I have A, B, C, C, A, B, D, D, E, E, whatever it is, then my runner, if my I is here at 0, then my runner is going to start at B, and then it's going to just run through the string while it is in the range of the length of the data, and also while it is not equal to the letter I started with, which is the letter at, where did I put it? Yeah, the letter here, which is the letter substring I to I plus 1. So while that runner is not equal to that data, I'm going to check to see if the hash set, oh, I need to make my hash set. Let's do hash set string letters equals new hash set string. And actually, I'm going to move this into the scope of here because this is on a per letter basis. For every letter, I need to have a collection of all of the letters I encountered up until I found its partner. So while runner is less than data length and data substring runner to runner plus 1 is equal to letter equals letter, while it's not the case the data substring equals letter, then if letters dot contains let me think, should I put that? Let's actually extract that. Do string next letter equals data.substring from runner to runner plus 1. If letters contains the next letter, then we want to remove it. Letters.remove next letter. Otherwise, letters.add next letter. All right. And then that should be that. And then after that, we're going to move the runner forward. Runner plus 1. Okay, so once we're done, system out, print line, I'm going to print the letter and then the letters, because I want to have a quick sanity check before we move on and just to see whether or not the letters that I gathered up are the correct letters. So for A, the letters should only include B. For B, the letters should only include A. And for everything else, it should be blank. That's my expectation. Set your expectations before you run your code too. All right, so let's see. For A, I found B. For B, I found A. For C, I found For C, I found A and B. For the second C, I found A and B. This is another important distinction. I forgot to mention this. For the first letter, for example, this first A. For this first A here, I would have encountered and removed the C. But from the standpoint of, for example, this second C right here, I will have encountered an A and a B, but that doesn't mean that a cross happened because at the end I didn't encounter the partner. So what we're doing here is this runner is looking for the partner essentially to this letter. So if the letter contains the next letter, then we remove it. If it has the next letter, we add it. Once we get to the bottom here, we have to check to see if this was the first or second letter. So if runner is equal to data.length, that means we didn't find it. Means we ran all the way to the end. And that's the case with this second C right here, is that we found an A and a B, but then we got to the end of the string without having found a C. If we would have looped around, we would have encountered the coupled A and B prior to encountering the first C, because this is a circle. So from here simply to the end of the string, we found an uncoupled A and B because we didn't find the other C. If we loop back around until we find the C, we would find the A and B. I'm not going to bother trying to loop around the string. I'm just going to check to see if the runner made it past the end of the string. If the runner made it to data.length, that means it didn't find the couple. So system out print line second occurrence. I don't know if I'm spelling that correctly. Of letter else, because that would mean it was the second occurrence of the letter, not the first, which means we can ignore it. Otherwise, that's what we're interested in. So let's run that. Okay, so I got A with B, B with A, C with nothing. The second occurrence of C, which originally had an A and a B in it, but we're not going to count it because it's the second occurrence of C. Second occurrence of A, again, we don't care about it. Second occurrence of B. We only care about the first occurrence of the letter and whatever it crosses on the way there. We can now add this to our total. Crosses plus equals letters dot size. And then once we're done, save the result to a file. Let's just print it for now. System out print line crosses. Let's see if we get the right number of crosses. Oh, it's going to be crosses over 2. Crosses equals crosses over 2. Because if A is crossing B and B is crossing A, that still only counts as one cross. We'll run that. Okay, we got a 1 at the bottom here. We got to write that to a file. I like to use print writers. Print writer pw equals new print writer new file circlecross.out, and then close the file. Or then we got to print the answer pw.print line crosses, and then pw.close. For the print writer, I have to import that. Import Java IO print writer, and we would usually have a try catch, but because of the throws exception, we don't have to mess with that. All right, so cross it out, print, and then close the file. Circlecross.out contains the number 1. I'm going to throw that into my favorite text editor. We're going to save that, and then back over here to upload. That was Java. Choose file. Here, Circlecross, Java. Oh, we got to rename the class. Do that real quick. An important note is if you're working in REPL, REPL always forces the name to be called main, your class, and it can't be renamed. So if this is called main.java and this class is called main.java, I have to submit it with the name main.java. If I wanted to rename that, I also have to rename the class. In this case, I gave it a different file name to keep it organized. Okay, let me see then. Back over here, let's try this again. Choose file, Circlecross, open, submit solution. All right. All right, fantastic. So that worked. And again, you can check this code. I have my REPL. You can just go to replit.com @howtoUSACO, and then you can find all my files there. This one is circlecross.java. And I'll also be putting a link at the Patreon post. All right, so that one I think is good. Moving on to Python. Okay, so in our Python solution, we need to be able to create a set. We need to be able to add items to a set. We need to be able to check to see whether or not an item is in a set. We need to be able to see how many things are in the set. We need to be able to remove a thing from the set. And we need to be able to, once again, check to see whether or not it's in the set. You can see that the remove worked and went true, false. So reading the data into a container, f equals open circlecross.in. And then we could just do data equals f.readline. I believe it's readline, and print data. Let's run that real quick and see if we got the information out of the file. Always good to do these sanity checks and make sure things are doing what you expect them to do. That confirms that we do have our data, which means we don't have to worry about if we're having issues later, whether or not the file reader worked correctly. Initializing a counter. All right, so we're going to do counter, or let's call it crosses. Crosses equals 0. And then we have to have our set, letters equals set. Actually, that's going to be in our loop. For I in range 0 to len of data. Letter equals data square bracket I. If oops. Then okay, so then for here we got to do a loop. I'm going to do this with a while loop. Runner equals I plus 1, and then while runner is less than len of data, and data at runner is not equal to the letter that I'm looking for. Then if, this is where I'm going to need my set, if not data at runner, and let's call this next letter equals data at runner, if not next letter in letters, then letters dot add next letter, else letters dot remove next letter. Once we get down here, runner plus 1, we're going to print the letter that I was looking for together with the letters that we found. And let's see if that's working so far. Okay, so I got A with B, B with A, and then the first C, I have an empty set, which is the first C here. For the second C, I found B and A. I mentioned this in the Java, but in case you skipped it, What happened is the second C made it all the way to the end of the string. It did find an A and a B, so that's why this C here is reporting A and B, but it didn't find another C, so this is irrelevant. If it would have wrapped around, it would have found the other A and B and removed them prior to getting to the C. So we need to know whether or not we found a match or not. Quick way to do that is if the runner is equal to the len of data, that means we made it all the way to the end of the data. If that's the case, then this is irrelevant information. Second occurrence, else, we'll print letter and letters. And now this C with the BA should not be visible. We should just have the C with the empty set. Let's run that. Here we go. So here's A finding B and B finding A, C finding nothing because the first C found the second C right away. And then for the A, B, for the other C, it was the second occurrence of the C, so I didn't count it. Same with the second A, same with the second B. Having now done this, when I get down here, if it's the first occurrence, then that one's to be added to crosses. So crosses plus equals len of letters in the set. Add the remaining letters to a counter. That's happening here. Okay, once we get down here, we should be done. Print crosses. I'm gonna actually divide it by 2. Crosses equals crosses over 2. Because if A is crossing B and B is crossing A, that's only gonna count as one crossing. So we have to divide by 2 to factor that out. Last step is gonna be saving it to a file. F equals open. I should have closed my earlier file. Let's do F out equals open circlecross.out for writing. And then F out.write crosses. And then let me see, F out.write crosses, F out.close. Oops, that should go here. Let's load that into my favorite code editor. And then we're going to submit that as a Python file. So cross.py and submit. Let's see how we did. Ooh. Let's see, what do we do? Oh, right, right's got to take a string. Did not hit an error in here? Didn't hit an error in here. Right, stir of crosses, fine. Resubmit. Choose file. Circlecross.py and submit. Let's see. Oh, and I'm getting, they're really giving me a hard time with this. Okay, so that's a float. Why is that a float? Oh, because of the divide by 2. Okay. What I did here is when I did divide by 2, it's dividing and getting a decimal instead of rounding down. I have to double divide that by 2, otherwise I get 1.0 because it's prepared to do 1.5 if necessary. One more attempt on this. USACO. And just real quick, if you're not familiar with the double division means to divide and round down. We absolutely need to divide and round down in this case. Otherwise, we get 1.0, which is not the correct solution. Fabulous. Okay, great. So that one looks good. Let's move on to C++. All right, quick review of the C++. I've got a set of items. This is how I insert into a set. This is how I find out whether or not something's in a set. Basically, to know whether or not it's in a set, I try to find it. And if it's not equal to the end, that means it's in the set. If it is equal to the end, it means I went through the set and didn't find it, and I made it to the end, which means that it's not in the set. This is how to print out the size of the items, how to remove an item. So first up is to read the file. I have stream fin to circlecross.in, and then fin, we'll put that into a string data, fin data. In order to be able to read a file or write a file, we have to include fstream. Also, all that is in the standard namespace. So we're being lazy and just using the standard namespace. fin data and then see out data just to make sure it worked. I always like to check to make sure my file reader has correctly read everything. I've had more than one time that I've written a bunch of code that doesn't work and I can't figure out why the code doesn't work, and it turns out because I didn't even read the file correctly and I'm working on an empty container. I've seen a lot of students do that as well. So it's always good to verify your data. All right, so having now done that, we're going to initialize a counter, crosses equals 0, and then for int I equals 0, while I is less than data.length I plus plus. Okay, so we've initialized our counter, and for every letter, we need to find its pair. I'm going to do that by creating a runner that starts at I plus 1. And then while the runner is not at the end of the data yet, data.length, and the data at the runner location is not equal to the letter I'm looking for. Let's put that into a char letter equals data at I. It's not equal to the letter. While that is the case, let me make this a little bigger. What we want to do then is check to see if items dot find the letter is not equal to items dot end. That means it's in the collection, and if it's in the collection, we want to remove it. Items dot erase letter. Otherwise, if it is in the collection, or if it's not in the collection, we want to add it. Items dot insert letter. And then we'll advance our runner. Oops, not here. Runner plus equals 1. So I'm starting a runner at the letter that's after the starting letter. And then while that runner is not at the end of the string, and also the data at that runner is not equal to the letter I started with, I'm going to, this should be next letter, char next letter equals data at runner. And then we'll do, this should be find next letter and add next letter and remove next letter. Okay, and then runner plus equals 1. And then once I get out of the while loop, I'm going to check to see if my runner has made it to the end of data. And much like the set, if we made it to the end, that means we didn't find what we're looking for. So if runner is equal to data.length, that means this is the second occurrence of the character. Otherwise, if it's the first occurrence of the character, we want to add the number of crosses to our crosses counter. Crosses plus equals data, not data, equals, where's my set? Oh, I'm using items, aren't I? Okay, let's change that to letters, because we're going to need a separate set for every starting and ending letter. Set char letters, and then we'll use letters instead of items. And then letters dot size. Out letters size. We don't have a quick way to print out the set, and I don't want to spend time making a set printer. But it would be good if you were having issues with the numbers not coming out correctly to figure out a way to print the set. And you can Google how to print a set in C++. It's just a for loop. What do we do? Oh, right. Exactly like what I was just talking about. We can't print the size of the letters. I wanted to just print the letter though. Let's run that again. All right. So from the A, I found one thing, which was the B. From the B, I found one thing, which was the A. From the first C, I found 0. From the second C, I would have found 2. Let me actually put this here real quick so you can see that. From the second C, you find 2. And I mentioned this in the other videos, but just in the other 2 languages, but assuming you skipped them, C is going to come up with a size of 2 here. The reason why is because the second C will find an A and a B and then go all the way to the end and hit the end of the string. The fact that it hits the end of the string means it didn't find the other C. If we did wrap it around, though, we would have found that other A and B prior to hitting the C, and they would have gotten removed. So we want to make sure that when it's the second occurrence of a letter for the second C, whatever we find on the way to end, we don't include it. And the way we're doing that is here in where is it? Crosses. We're only going to count the crosses if it's the second occurrence. We're not going to, or if it's the first occurrence. If it's the second occurrence, we're not going to count that towards our crosses. Okay, letter and letter size, cross equals equal. Okay, now once we're done with this, we're going to divide crosses by 2. Crosses divided by 2. This will automatically round down, so we don't have to worry. I mean, it's going to be an even number anyway. But if you have worked in Python before, or if you've watched this entire video just now in the Python run through, I had an issue where it came up with 2.0 instead of, or 1.0 instead of 1. And the reason why is when you divide in Python, it does it mathematically, assuming you're going to want a decimal. In Java and C++, when you divide integers by integers, you always get integers as a result. It always rounds down. Okay, let's go ahead and see out that. See out crosses, just real quick to make sure we're getting a 1. And we are. Okay, so we got to save it to a file. That's going to be an OF stream for output file. OF stream faut to circlecross.out. And then faut is going to write crosses. And then we need to close the file, faut.close. We really should return 0. We're going to be proper about it. Okay, I'm going to save this. We're going to put that in my favorite editor. So cross, and we're going to upload it. C++, choose file, circlecross.c++, submit solution. And there we have it. Okay, so just as a real quick recap, starting from the C++, I'm going to start from here and go backwards. Essentially, what we needed to do is we needed to write out the number of crosses. The way we did that is we ran through every starting letter, and for every starting letter, we made a collection of our letters. We found what the next letter is that we're looking for a partner of, and we stored that into letter. And then we started our runner. Our runner then is running through all the data. It's getting the next letter out of the data and checking to see whether or not that next letter is already in our set of letters we found. And if it is, we erase it. And if it's not, we insert it. And then we advance the runner. Once we're done, if the runner made it all the way to the end, it means we didn't find the second letter, which means we don't want to add the crosses because we haven't even, we haven't found it all the way, we haven't made it all the way back around yet. But if it was the first occurrence to the second occurrence, then whatever is in our letters collection here, we're going to add that to the number of crosses. And then we just need to make sure to divide our crosses by 2 at the end. Alrighty, so that is the solution for why did the cow cross the road in Java, Python, and C++. Feel free to review the code. I'm going to be leaving the code on my REPL at replit.com/@howtoUSACO. And then this one is Circlecross dash, and then whatever languages you want to use. And also I'll be putting links in the Patreon post. Alrighty, I will talk to you next time.